Hello there, and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program, People, Politics, and Power. I am Imonia Marere. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, is Nigeria's foremost institution in the fight against drug trafficking, substance abuse, and related crimes. It was established in 1989 by Decree Number 48. The NDLEA is mandated to curb the production, importation, export, sale, and abuse of illicit drugs. The NDLEA is wired to dismantle drug trafficking networks, rehabilitate individuals affected by drug addiction, and strengthen Nigeria's legal framework on drug control in alignment with global commitments, ensuring that Nigeria plays its role in international anti-drug collaborations. But according to the National Bureau of Statistics, over 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64 years, or 1 in 7 people, actively use drugs. The wave of substance abuse that once lurked in the shadows has surged into a visible epidemic, growing into a full-blown crisis. Substances like cannabis, opioids, and nitrous oxide can be found in many urban and rural communities. But what are their sources? On the program today, we will explore how and why these dangerous substances infiltrate our communities and neighborhoods, and what the NDLEA is doing to safeguard public health, promote national security, and foster a drug-free society. Well, we will be looking into its critical works, its impact, challenges, and ongoing efforts to combat the ever-evolving threats of drug abuse and trafficking in Nigeria. My guest is the spokesman of the NDLEA, Dr. Femi Babafemi. Thank you so much for finding time to join us.
It's my time to be here.
Welcome.
My pleasure.
All right, to get going, let's take this report from 12 years ago, but which still resonates in our society today.
Also known as meth, blue, ice, and crystal, methamphetamine is described as a highly addictive and illegal synthetic psychostimulant drug that affects the central nervous system.
If you drink borehole water or well water within this range of 500 meters from where the lab is located, you are susceptible to be caught up with kidney, liver, and heart diseases. And in the neighborhood, they say that. No wonder, because they brought one malam. We brought one malam to dig a well for us. And one day, the malam, after coming out of the well, he slumped.
Methamphetamine first arrived Nigeria in 2009. And in 2011, the first clandestine meth laboratory was uncovered by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. So far, over 17 meth laboratories have been dismantled across the country.
It is on record that the first set of meth labs established in Nigeria were done by the South Americans in Asaba. 4 Mexicans were arrested. They were brought into the country in the name that they are coming to produce fertilizers. And 5 Nigerians were involved. And each of these Nigerians had his own function to play. There was somebody that produced the traveling documents, somebody who is specialized in evacuating the drug out of the lab when it is manufactured. And in Nanka in Anambra State, that's where he went and hid in a hotel, and he was running clandestine laboratories for people paying him. And they were paying him $38,000 every week to train set of 7 people, which after he leaves Nigeria, these people will take over the business, and that is the case today.
Former Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Garuba Umar shared his experiences to confirm the illustrations as presented by the NDLEA official.
No wonder he has mentioned something that has opened my eyes now as a commissioner of police when I was there. For those of you who are there, every day we receive news of death while digging borehole. We were thinking it's ritual or something like that, not knowing it has to do with what he has just said. Because an expert that knows how to dug a well, suddenly that one or two or three of them will just go like that.
The increased production and consumption of the illicit trade in methamphetamine has been attributed to several factors.
We, all the law enforcement agencies, most times, we don't cooperate. We don't talk to each other, but the criminals, they don't have borders. Legitimate pharmaceutical companies will apply for ephedrine to use it to produce cough syrup. But I tell you, only 25% to 30% are used. The rest is diverted to the black market, to the methamphetamine producers. And what is the cost of ephedrine on the street? The black market cost of 1 kilo of ephedrine is $3,000. While they buy it from India, $150 only. A kilo of meth is about just $5,000 in Nigeria. By the time it gets to South Africa, the easiest point they take it to, it goes to about $13,000. By the time it goes to Malaysia, it's about $80,000. And guess what? In Japan, a kilo of meth is between $250,000 to $300,000, just 1 kilo. So people, they don't care, even the people they employ to produce this for them, and the people in the neighborhood where they site the labs, they don't care whether those people die.
That report by Ada Onoye, our crime correspondent, was put together about 12 years ago. But as you will find out later on, much of that is still very much with us in Nigeria today. My guest is Dr. Femi Babafemi, a spokesman of the NDLEA. Thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Let's begin by having an overview of the work of the NDLEA, its mandate areas in terms of drug, trying to ensure that the importation, export, and consumption of illicit drugs in Nigeria.
Yeah, basically, let me just break it down to under two major pillars. That is drug demand reduction. That is, under drug demand reduction, we do prevention. That is through sensitization, awareness creation. And I'm glad that this topic is on the front line of your program today, meaning that what we are doing now is part of the sensitization and raising awareness among the citizenry, within our population. So that is one step of it. That's raising awareness through prevention and other means. The next is providing support to those who might have had contact with these illicit substances or already abusing these illicit substances. We also provide tests for them, that is to ensure, to confirm or to determine whether indeed certain people are already into substance abuse. And when it's confirmed, the tests come out positive. We are the first responders to provide some level of interventions for them through counseling and some level of treatment, as well as referrals. Again, after that, we're also involved in reintegration. All of those come under drug demand reduction, just to cut down the demand for these illicit substances by the citizens. Now, the other leg of it, the other hand of it, is the supply reduction, which most people know or identify NDLEA with the law enforcement part of it, which is what is really out there. But I can tell you that indeed NDLEA does this almost 50-50 with clear parity. That is the supply reduction, that is cutting access, all that we do to cut access to these drugs and availability of these drugs, working with our international partners, working with our local stakeholders to share information, to conduct joint operations and all of those things to ensure that we have interdiction, block the distribution of all of these things and make seizures, investigate, and then go ahead to prosecute. And under this, again, one great thing that the agency has also strengthened, one of the mechanisms that the leadership of the agency has strengthened of late is the access and financial investigation, because when you look at the people going into this illicit business, the driving force is the money, what they acquire from this illicit trade. And so the agency also reasons that, okay, because when you seize these drugs, even when you send them, you arrest them, you prosecute the people involved, they really aren't moved that much. But because they know or they think that they can afford to go to jail for 5-10 years, and even right inside jail, they can still be running their things out there. So they believe that, okay, after their time in jail, they will always still come back, meet their billions, and then continue, meet their assets, their vehicles, their luxury vehicles, their mansions, and all of those things. So this, the agency has a full directorate at the moment for assets and financial investigation. So all of these are driven to ensure that we remove that incentive. So when we make decisions, we arrest and prosecute them, then we go after all their assets. Everything they have acquired through this criminal trade, we take from them their bank accounts. I mean, we've seen cases where we've taken more than 100 bank accounts from an individual, more than 130 bank accounts from individuals and all of those things. And then their houses. Now I know quite a lot of assets all over the country that that the agency is, we put these things in the media every time, and we're getting them forfeited to the government of Nigeria. So that's removing the incentive. So those are the two major pillars of the activities of the work of the agency, to cut the demand by the people, as well as cutting the supply of this.
Talking about the demand aspect, how prevalent is the use or the abuse of these illicit drugs?
Yeah.
I asked that question against the backdrop of the fact that the National Bureau of Statistics is saying that well over 14.3 million Nigerians
Actually, that was
abusing illicit substances.
Yeah, actually, that was a report conducted by the NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics, in conjunction, supported or coordinated by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, funded by the EU then, and then with the support of a number of other institutions. The outcome of that was published in 2018, which by now it's it has expired, because it's actually supposed to have a 5-year time frame or lifespan. So, but then we are glad again that the stakeholders, the UNODC and all the stakeholders are coming together again to reassess with all the efforts, especially in the last 4 years, to reassess what has been the patterns, what has been the changes and all of those things, and what's the situation. But then going back to that 2018, which was what you are referring to, indeed, that report showed that we have 14.3 million Nigerians aged 15-64 who abused illicit substances, apart from tobacco and alcohol. And then that accounts for 14.4 prevalence rate, which is almost 3 times the global average of 5.6. prevalence rate. So that was indeed alarming, and I'm sure that must have necessitated the setting up of the Presidential Advisory Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse that superseded then by the then President Muhammadu Buhari's administration then. And coincidentally, that committee was headed by the current chairman, chief executive of the NDLEA, and indeed that committee, I remember, produced a blueprint for the country's anti-drug campaign. And we're glad that indeed when Jaramara came on board as the chairman, chief executive of NDLEA, he didn't waste time to put the right things in place, and then the results as what we're seeing today, a very ferocious drive against the drug cartels. And I tell you that in the last 4 years, there has been the arrest of more than 57,000 offenders. 57,000. That's a huge figure, and those arrests had led to the seizure of more than 9.9 million kilograms of assorted illicit substances. That's almost 10 million kilograms. That's huge. I can't remember, the number of 40-foot trailers that we fill up. So just imagine a fraction of that had escaped into, and I'm glad that BBC released a documentary recently, just last week, detailing the effect of the work of the NDLEA on the opioid explosion, especially the manufacturing and exportation of that from India. We have no, we indeed have no, we are very much on top of that because we know exactly where these opioids were coming from. And I'm telling you that almost half of last year alone, we made more than 200, more than 200, no, more than almost, it can't be less than like 20 million pills of tramadol in the second half of last year alone at the ports. I mean, they were like coming like water. But then fortunately for us, we were working with our partners globally, and we had intelligence on all of those things. As they were leaving India, before they got here, we were already aware. We work with other stakeholders like the customs at the ports to ensure that these things do not escape into our streets. And that's why if you watch that documentary by the BBC, when they went for the undercover in India, the man they were interviewing, they said, yes, if you want to buy this export to Nigeria, yes, they can do it, but he's
go through
no, that they won't, that they won't, the ports, the NDLEA in Nigeria will seize it, they will get it. So it's not safe, but then you can go through, we can go to other neighboring countries, and that's why you see the diversion to Ghana. And I can also tell you that indeed, because all of this is the agency, the NDLEA at the moment, I can tell you 100% our operations are intelligence-led. We know all of these things, right from the port of departure, right from their operations and their discussions and what have you over there. So we have intelligence on all of this. And that's why, again, when they were trying to divert to our neighboring countries and try to come through the border, the land borders, we were also there. Like just yesterday, you see some of these things being intercepted because we have special units dedicated for those kind of things, monitoring their movement and what have you. And just at the point, this one, what happened yesterday was the seizure of more than 5 kilograms of cocaine coming in and then being moved to the east. But then, I mean, sometimes they are shocked because they never expect how would you know that I have this here? Because our operations, like I said, are intelligence-led, and we track them, we monitor them. So we also have our eyes at the border, the land borders, as well as the waterways where they try to smuggle these things, because they cannot come directly through the airports and through through the seaports, because they know that indeed we're very much fully on ground and we're well seized of all their schemes.
So that takes us back to the sources of these illicit drugs. You have mentioned India several times.
The opioids.
But is India the only source of these illicit drugs?
No, absolutely. You have quite a lot of drugs. We're talking of opioids now. When you talk of the opioids, India, then some come through Pakistan. For instance, again, when you look at some strains of cannabis, again, the loud, the one that is common, I mean, that are celebrities and quite a number of our young people enjoy so much and very expensive, I tell you. I mean, we know that the roots has always been Canada, some come through US, and we always have our eyes on these things. And just this last weekend again, you see the means what they tried to do again. You see, they had to go through Thailand and had to even give it to a white lady, a Thai citizen, a young lady, to bring it to Nigeria, hoping that we would never expect loud to come through Thailand because it's banned in Thailand. So how would it come through a flight from Thailand? I mean, bring in loud and then coming through a citizen, a white lady, a Thai lady. But then because, again, we are intelligence-led and our operatives are well-trained, professional to be able to put all of this, analyze, profile, I mean, do professional profiling and then get these things. They were able to discover that indeed this lady and must be carrying something, and they discovered that. So indeed, but then the most commonly abused, we have to fix the fact, is cannabis. So if you look at that 2018 drug use survey report, the report published in 2018, out of 14.3 million, the report age 15 to 64, the report identified as abusing illicit substances, 10.6 million a day. In fact, 10,640,000 were abusing cannabis. And that largely because cannabis is grown here locally. I mean, it used to be something in about 2 states in the south of Nigeria, but now it's grown all over the country. Because people, even we have seen some of our operations that we discover this in homes. Homes, not even in the farm, even though the majority, the large one, the commercial ones are grown deep in the forest. There are quite a number of times when we had to take out some of those plantations deep in the forest. Our operatives will have to trek. I mean, there are areas that cannot be accessed, whether through vehicles or motorbikes. You have to walk, and we've seen situations that our operatives have to walk for 5-6 hours to be able to access those locations. They are very deep, and these people, the cartels, have groomed some militia to arm them to be able to fence and protect those places. But then we're equal to the task. We had some engagement with them and move them off the way to be able to get to those places and then destroy those things. So indeed, we have cannabis issue here, even though, and we are not just employing the law enforcement tactic that is going to destroy those farms, arrest those involved or those behind them, but we are also, the agency has also come up with something called the Alternative Development Project. The Alternative Development Project, which, and that has been globally acknowledged by the UN and other international stakeholders, that NDLEA is the first in Africa to have such, to introduce such, even though it's something that had also been introduced in Asia, in other parts, that is working well for them, that is providing alternatives to these people. Rather than you growing cannabis in your farm and then you are restless because you can't sleep with your 2 eyes closed, you are afraid that NDLEA at the point of harvesting or transporting these things, NDLEA could come, take them, destroy them, arrest you, you go to jail and all of those things. So why don't you look for alternatives? We're working with various stakeholders, the government, international partners, and all the well-spirited individuals and organizations to see how these people can be empowered to go into some other crop production, ventures that will be supported by government and the stakeholders. And they'll have peace of mind without the fear of being. We have a full unit created right under in the office of the Chairman Chief Executive of the agency at the moment, and that process is ongoing.
Given what you have described, are we at any risk of or near what obtains in Latin America, for instance, where drug production, distribution, and export is high on the agenda? Places like Mexico, Colombia, and the rest of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you that indeed our situation is serious because if you look at the volume, the way these people, their determination to bring these things to Nigeria at all costs. You see, if you look at some of the videos we release, you see some of the means of, the modes of concealment show some level of desperation that we just have to move these things. But then the fact that we're not, they are targeting, what it means is they are targeting our population. And you know, Nigeria has a very high youth population. So, and they know, just imagine the volume of opioids that I said they were bringing. I think I even mentioned 20 million. I'm talking of 200 million pills. That's huge. That's huge. So who are these things meant for? When in a situation, what the legally and medically allowed milligram of tramadol, for instance, in Nigeria is 50 and 100 milligram. But most of those things we have seized, they are 225, 200, 250. Imoni, I'm telling you, I'm not sure you can take 50 milligram and be okay.
What will I be using it for anyway?
So not to talk of somebody taking 125, 150, 225, 200, 250. That's high. And that's why you see some of these young people, their organs just pack up, or their organs are damaged even before they get to their productive years because they have abused these things. So that's why we're really, the situation may be bad, but then the good thing is we're responding appropriately and we're getting results for what we're doing to ensure that these things are not, like I told you, in the last 4 years, over 9.9 million kilograms of assorted illicit drugs. Just imagine, for instance, the 2,139 kilograms of cocaine. That's the highest that was seized in 2022 in an Ikorodu warehouse in Lagos. Just imagine what that could have done to any society. If that had been allowed to come into our country, into distribution in the country, that's huge. And then look at the volume, 9.9 million kilograms. That's also huge, just a fraction of it. If that enters any community or any society, or even if not for consumption, if they have succeeded in converting, selling these things, and the money, because drugs is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So just imagine if the fund had entered into the wrong hands, especially the bandits, those criminal-minded, or fueling insecurity in parts of the country. So what that would have done to law and order and the security of our country. So indeed, that's a huge contribution to the stability, especially the socio-economic stability of the country, because that's a whole lot.
It's estimated that about 70% of illicit drugs are in the family of meth and all of that. Are there other locally produced drugs, illicit drugs in Nigeria today that the NDLEA may have been able to research into, find how they are produced, how they are distributed, and even the consumption pattern? Because it's also estimated that about 40% of those who consume illicit drugs are people who are 25 years and below.
Yeah, like I said, first you look at cannabis as the most commonly abused, and next to that is the opioids, the tramadol, the codeine, and the tramadol. Then you have them in different variants, in different strains. All of those things were brought out by that BBC documentary. Then, when you look at the meth again, fortunately, that documentary, that report by Ada that we watched earlier on the program, actually showed how the meth cartel came into Nigeria and what had been the response. And I think my colleague there, Sunday Sirangi, mentioned some 18 clandestine labs, and I can tell you that by now we've had more than 25 of such labs taken down, and those behind them prosecuted and convicted. That I can tell you. I know. I mean, we've seen that in Lagos, in VGC in Lagos. We've also seen in communities in Anambra State. We have to go deep into communities in those places to ensure that we take these things out. And beyond that, again, we've also ensured that the agency has also gone ahead not only to dismantle these clandestine laboratories, some of which, like I said, had been taken deep into the hinterland because of the fear of trying to hide the things from, these things from the NDLEA. But we had also taken some of their assets to court, and they have been forfeited to government, just to ensure that we break their wings and ensure that we cripple them, the cartels, and then that is done. But then, apart from the meth that people had to acquire the technical know-how through the South Americans that came way back, we also know that there are also what we call the challenge of what the new psychoactive substances. The NPS, yes. And so you have, we're also aware of that, and we've been following all of those things to, ensuring that they are not allowed to thrive. And I'm sure if you had also followed us, you will see that there was one that came up last year, and that was the akuskura. It's supposed to be a herbal drink that people use to wash their mouth and something, and then we discovered at a point that they had started mixing, and it was allowed. Some of them were registered. Do you understand? But then we discovered along the line through intelligence that they were already, we got reports that people were taking them and even collapsing and dying. And then we quickly moved into that, and then we discovered that there were people producing that. They were already mixing some psychoactive substances like cannabis, like gin, and some opioids with it, producing and distributing them. And so we quickly, we dismantled quite some, there are factories in Ibadan, Southwest. Again, their distribution network in the north, all of those things were taken out. That's why you probably not have seen things about akuskura. They will work very well with the NAFDAC on that also to ensure that these things are not allowed to thrive. They require quite a lot of other things that our young people also try, because when we see some of these things from their source, from their roots, especially the huge ones coming into the country, or the cannabis plantations, when we destroy all of this, they affect the availability. And so or even those that are able to creep in, they become out of reach for them. So they also try to start developing things, ideas, because some of these things, again, we can't leave out the influence or the impact of social media, the internet, on how some of this creativity come into being, how they are able to see what their peers out there, or what they're doing, and then some of them are naturally, again, talented. We have geniuses among our young people, so they mix some other things together. We don't have to start naming them now, just so that we don't unnecessarily raise the curiosity of some other persons, and then, okay, so we can do this, and then it becomes another issue. So,
and talking about that, we have a report. We have a report of some of these innovations, so to say, innovations in quote, adaptations by young people, how they are going about trying to find local solutions to their drug needs and drug abuse. I will take that report, and when we come back, we will then be looking at how these things emerge and how the NDLEA is dealing with them.
So the saying, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. These young lads are firmly gripped by the devil. They are into drugs, which they simply call solution. The belief among these ones is that the substance brings solution through their plights. We are out of school and government has failed us, says one of them.
I deal on solution. I have a school certificate but can't get a job. I make a profit of 1,000 naira on 5 boxes daily.
But oh no, says another. I am into drugs because It gives me a high sensational feeling which I love very much.
I feel intoxicated. I feel energetic.
One thing, they say, leads to another. After feeling high, these youths rob any passerby, especially in the night.
As you see them, you can remove your handset, rob you in the night around 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And even though you touch one of them, they carry you to police. Police will release them. You that they carry to police, they will hold you down there.
Before time will run out of these ones, whereby there will become a missing link in this generation, both parents and government should rescue them for rehabilitation.
Thank you so much. That report was from Kano, and how young Nigerians are beginning to adapt and look at other avenues and prospects for their drug needs. Right, Dr. Femi Babafemi is still very much here. Now, there are numerous spots in very many urban centers and even rural communities where today, say in Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Abuja, if rural communities, neighboring Yanya here, and in many other places where drug sales, consumption, and distribution is going on. What is the NDLEA doing about such cases?
Well, thank you very much. Again, don't forget that I did say earlier that indeed those involved in the distribution of these illicit substances, the target are youth population. Our numbers, our figures, which indeed it's for us is a blessing from God to our great country, Nigeria. But then I like to say that for us to get these things right, we have to look at the solution as a whole of society thing, as a collective thing. This is not just, yes, the NDLEA is the arm of government or an agency of government saddled with the responsibility of coordinating activities to tackle, to respond to this issue. But then, beyond that, it's not just about what is the NDLEA doing. I can continue to tell you, and I'm going to tell you what the agency, because, I mean, these areas that you mentioned, we have the map on our hands, and just, I mean, we have almost every time people giving us feedback. We have a toll-free helpline through which we provide support services, psychosocial support services to those struggling with substance abuse, through which people also provide us information on some of these things. Again, we have our social media handles where people also provide this information. And as they bring this information to us, we share with the relevant departments, commands, formations of the agencies, the agency, and they go all out. I know from the handles managed by my office, media and advocacy, we share these things to the various commands and my colleagues in operation and general investigation, and they distribute them accordingly. And we get the feedback. They make these arrests. So we are perpetually, we're consistently on these areas. Raiding, especially in Abuja here, I know that almost every week there is hardly any other day that you don't have our operatives move out to these locations, raid them, make sure that these things are seized from them, and then those arrested are made to face the consequences, going to the law court. But beyond what the NDLEA is doing, now, these people, they are from homes. They live within us. They live within the communities. I have seen a situation in Lugbe area, an estate there, where the people in charge of the security of the security of the estate, managing the security of the estate, they're actually the ones selling the drugs. Yes. And so we got intelligence through people that indeed they suspect that the security people handling the security of the estate, they are selling drugs.
Is the drug cartel there?
Yes. And indeed, the information came, and our FCT command went in there and arrested them. We have done that in the last, this year alone. We have done that more than 4 or 5 times in that location alone. Yes. So that is one way. So it's a collective thing. And that's why the agency is not, does not have the feeling that we can do it alone. No, it's a whole of society. The agency is deploying a whole of society approach to it. Meaning that at the family unit, which is the smallest unit of the society, parents have a role to play. For instance, the people selling these things, they are from home. They are from parents. I mean, they take this thing, I mean, the parents can't say they are not aware. So why do you have to harbor it? And for people who are abusing these things also, parents also have responsibilities there. You know, we have quite a lot of factors that are responsible. Apart from the family unit, we also have at the level of the community. There are community leaders. These people, they don't, like I said, we received information about people who suspect that this is what is going on, and we moved in quickly. We took them out. They are facing the consequences at the moment. So that is the way it should be. Because the NDLEA has its FCT command in Gudu here. Lugbe is far, even though we have area commands across the FCT, but then there are interiors where there are people and they see these things, so we encourage them, we urge them to give us information and we'll move in. And I can tell you, I'm talking of within 24 hours, our people will move in. I have seen the ones we shared, and before the close of the reports with videos, with pictorial evidence of the operation, of the raid, came back to us, showing that those involved had been taken out. So that's exactly the thing we're talking about. And again, beyond the community, we also see another major stakeholder that is responsible or that should take some level of responsibility is also our religious leaders. These people, they either belong to a Christian worship place or an Islamic center. The imams, the pastors, Sundays, Fridays, they should make this issue a topic, their sermon. Talk to them, because we are very religious people. We listen to our religious leaders. So this is also one of the challenges we're throwing to our religious leaders, to ensure that these things are not allowed or their members are told these things every time, to consistently preach this, hammer it, and make sure that the message sink. And in situations where they can do it alone, we are available. They can work with us, because we work with quite a lot of religious organizations, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, and even civil society organizations, because we know we can do it. We don't pretend that we can do it alone. We have to work with everybody, and that's the whole that's the essence of our whole of society approach, and that's what our War Against Drug Abuse wider social advocacy initiative is meant to drive, to mobilize everybody to buy in and take ownership of the fight against drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking in our country. So that is one thing again. We also have what you call the Save Our Families campaign, which is meant to drive the drug integrity test among within our population. What this means is, because we know that because there is no demand, the money, there won't be supply. There has to, somebody has to say, I want this thing, before somebody will come up and say, okay, I can get it for you. So one of the things we also push out is, okay, to ensure that every family, every workplace, every religious institution, or even the traditional institution, have this, this thing in place, drug test kits. I encourage my friends, please buy, because this thing is like a demon. You can't say, no, my daughter is not involved. How do you know? You have to conduct it. It's a health thing. So yes, you can see changes in patterns of their behavior. Will make sensitive parents to actually understand something is going wrong or something is going on somewhere. Especially when your kids that used to stay with you in the living room, joining the family to play, and all of a sudden start withdrawing to himself or herself alone in his room, or you see your child that, more often than not, come back with backpacks, well perfumed, and all of those things with tom smelling everywhere. You know, you need to start asking questions. What's going on? So when these things are noticed, we encourage parents, please, the agency has the drug test kits all over in all our commands across the country through this Safe Our Family campaign initiative, so that people can get these things in their homes, easy to use. You test. If you are in doubt, what could be responsible for the change in the lifestyle or in the pattern of sleep or behavior of your child, apply this thing. Test. What that does is, first, it gives you, you detect early detection, which saves families a lot of headache, because by the time these things is allowed to fester and then get into addiction, before you know, it becomes a psychiatric issue, a mental issue. So that's why we encourage this, so that people can early attend to it when they discover that, okay, this person already tests positive, meaning that he's already in contact with illicit substances, and then attention is given. Counseling is needed at that point. Then our test kit has the NDLEA's toll-free helpline, where you can call to seek for support, to seek assistance. They will assess the person. There is no fear of being judged or being stigmatized, because they don't even need to know your name. They don't even need to know your location. All you need is call our toll-free helpline. They will attend to you. They would analyze the situation. And if perhaps in their analysis they think such an individual needs to be checked into a rehab center, then they will then guide you to the nearest one. That is that. The second benefit of that is, when your kids, your wards, or your your employees know that, okay, before you know that you have this, you apply it, they'll be more careful. They'll be restrained. So it creates some level of deterrence. And we're glad that we have government institutions that now make this a requirement for recruitment, for promotion exercises. You have to go through the drug test, because, somebody that is, that is on drugs, you don't expect that person to give you maximum results in his or her, the discharge of his or her responsibilities in the office. So we're glad that quite a lot of government institutions, including law enforcement, they are already buying into this, and that itself, the NDLEA is championing it, and we're doing it within our organization.
I'm happy that you brought up the issue of tests. I'll come to it very shortly. But first, let's talk about deterrence. In spite of all the work that the NDLEA is doing, in terms of arrests and confiscation of assets that are related to illicit drug trafficking and distribution, it doesn't appear to deter those who are in the business. What else can the NDLEA do? Or indeed, what else can government do to actually reduce this to the barest minimum?
Yes, again, Imone, I'll tell you that this effort is not a one-off thing. It's not a fight we'll fight in 2-3 years and believe we've gotten to the end of it. You have advanced societies, countries in the world that have been in this for years, for decades. Do you understand? But quite a lot of other things are tied to these things. And I'm glad I watched the Chairman Chief Executive of NDLEA speak at the flag off of the war against drug abuse campaign in the Northwest. The event was aired from Kaduna this morning, and I watched the NDLEA Chairman General was the keynote speaker there, and indeed he analyzed some of these things. In that, you see, at the NDLEA, for us, we attend to these people, those struggling with substance abuse, who are already in contact with substance abuse, illicit substances. And when they are treated, when they are gone through our counseling and rehabilitation processes, they are expected to be reintegrated back into their families and to their society. And one major thing there is the issue of relapse. And why is that? It's because there are triggers, there are certain factors that led these people ab initio into substance abuse. And that's why the NDLEA chairman threw that challenge there to the governors at the conference. Stakeholders, governments at those levels, especially at those subnational levels, you have quite a lot of youths that need empowerment, that need skills acquisition. And one of the things the chairman of NDLEA advocated at that conference was the easiest one, the low-hanging fruit there, is agriculture. So we need to engage and to get these people engaged to be doing something meaningful. Do you understand? We know the federal government is doing quite a lot through the Renew Hope agenda of the federal administration, but then these things need to cascade down to the grassroots. So we need the governments at the subnationals, at the local government level, and that's why the agency does not pretend that we can coordinate everything from the national. What we do is to create state drug control committees, working in partnership with the state governments, even asking that the first ladies, the wives of the governors at those states, share these committees so that they can put in place certain necessary mechanisms, systems that will prevent people from going into substance abuse. Again, we also encourage the local government to also have local government drug control committees so that they can work in partnership with our formation or our commands at those levels. Cascades down so that the predisposing factors can be taken care of.
Okay. All right. So talking about tests, which will be our last question for this session. I'm sure that we cannot exhaust everything.
Absolutely.
We will have to bring you back at some time. But there have been suggestions and agitations in some quarters that as much as people in public service should have these tests conducted, like we say, politicians should also, those who are aspiring to public offices, elective offices, should also undergo this kind of tests.
There is absolutely no doubt about it. Don't forget that the NDLEA has been pushing for this. Don't forget it's not law. It's just an advocacy initiative. It's what we're just appealing to people. Okay, for instance, people that try to get married, they go for HIV/AIDS test, they go for genotype test. Nobody makes it compulsory. Do you understand?
Yes.
But it's just something you do for the benefit of the individuals and the society, for public health. And so we also advocate that this should also be a requirement. If you want to get into an institution, which we are glad a lot of institutions have adopted this as a policy now. We have quite a lot of schools who do that now. For you to get admission into their school, you have to get your drug test-free certificate from the NDLEA. Apart from that, for those prospective couples who want to get married, quite a lot of institutions, traditional institutions, religious institutions have also made that compulsory. And we also know that in certain states also, it is also mandatory for you to undergo drug integrity test, for you to get elected into any public office, or even for you to be appointed commissioner or anything in that state. Yes, that is sure.
So that should be transposed to the national level.
That's what we are saying.
Yes.
For instance, in Kano, it started during the administration of Governor Ganduje, and I think the present administration has also continued with that. Whether you want to be councillor, local government chairman, you want to be commissioner, you want to be House of Reps, Senate, all of those, it's compulsory. You have to go through that. Do you understand? So we're advocating this right from the local government level all through the way. It's for the benefit of everybody, nothing more. And it also helps to cut demand, because there is that deterrence that when you know that you're going to be tested, and if you are tested, you'll be asked to go and treat yourself first before you come back to contest. You wouldn't want to lose that opportunity. You would be restrained and abstain from abusing illicit substances. That's just the benefit of that.
Thank you so much, Femi.
Always my pleasure.
Great. I'm sure that we'll have another opportunity to talk more about the work of the NDLEA and the strategies being adopted to curb production, distribution, even import and export of these illicit drugs. Thank you so much.
My God's grace, thank you.
My guest has been Dr. Femi Babafemi, who is the spokesperson of the NDLEA. Hopefully, we should be able to have him back at some other time. Thank you for investing your time with us. We'll see you again when we bring you another edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.